The Cox family's ownership of newspapers began in the 19th century in Ohio. James M. Cox was an active politician in the early part of the 20th century as a member of Congress, governor of Ohio, and a losing presidential candidate to Warren Harding. He bought many newspapers and broadcast stations, which eventually became Cox Enterprises. As a former reporter, he valued aggressive journalism, and one of his papers, the Canton Daily News, won a Pulitzer Prize for its coverage of organized crime in 1928.
Was organized crime, and especially in southern Florida and in the Midwest, organized crime was a very, very big thing back in those days. And he was passionate about Al Capone, and he really, really wanted to see Al Capone's crime family stopped because it was causing a lot of problems. And he focused on it and he actually played a leading role in coming up with the idea of how to arrest Al Capone on tax evasion. And my grandmother tells me that when Capone was sentenced and was found guilty, he stood up in the courtroom and he was swearing out loud, and he said, "I know who did this. It's that blank blank Cox, and I'm going to kill him."
He continued to expand his newspaper holdings in 1939 with the purchase of the Atlanta Journal and WSB Radio. In 1950, the Atlanta Constitution was bought, and the Atlanta Newspapers Incorporated was formed.
He was in Miami or Atlanta or Ohio. He was watching everything that was going on in every business, and he was very, very, very much on top of it. He really believed that publishers and editors should be allowed to do their own thing.
James M. Cox, Jr. inherited the business when his father died in 1957, and when he died, his two sisters, Barbara Cox and Ann Cox Chambers, became co-owners.
As women owners, I don't think that should be overlooked. These were two women who sat at the head of a huge media corporation, which was very successful. It still is a money-making media entity, might I say.
Ann Cox Chambers became the majority owner after her sister, Barbara Cox, died in 2007. Today, Cox Enterprises is a multifaceted corporation that includes many newspapers, radio and TV stations, including WSB, cable TV systems, digital telephone and other telecommunications services, plus Autotrader.com and Kudzu.com.
I think she was pretty well trained by her father, but she didn't believe that an owner should meddle, certainly in the media business, in the newspaper business. And her points of view were, I'm sure, represented as a board member of what happened and how Cox developed into this remarkable enterprise.
Well, you know, she, I think, is the backbone of the Cox organization. And, you know, it was, media has been in her family, and it's a very important part of the family history. And she has really been a good steward of that legacy. Cox has put out, you know, not only here in Atlanta, but in Dayton, and in Austin, and in Palm Beach, great newspapers. She has been behind the scenes and has made sure that these papers remain quality.
But she really does respect the fact that the best thing a media owner can do is stay out of the life of a journalist and let a journalist be a journalist.
There's no secret about the fact that Ann's a Democrat. There's no secret about the fact that, you know, she works for the people, Democrats, to get elected, but you never see a taste of that or feel a taste of that in the media represented by Cox Enterprises.
I was given the freedom to run the pages as I saw fit. And I think that is a very fitting legacy for Ann Cox Chambers. And let me say one more thing about her politics. In 1992, Bill Clinton was her candidate. She gave Bill Clinton money. But in the primary, my editorial page didn't endorse Bill Clinton. We endorsed a guy named Paul Sangas. Bill Clinton was stunned and angry, I am told, by campaign aides that he didn't get our endorsement. He thought it came with the money. Ann Cox Chambers owned the newspaper. She had given him money. She thought the endorsement came with that, but it didn't. And I think that speaks powerfully to her legacy of allowing us to be independent.
One of the greatest contributions to Atlanta by the Cox family is its philanthropy.
When she came here, she was a wealthy woman, and she began to use that wealth as wisely as Mr. Woodruff. And her interest in culture and in the arts was a great boost to the cultural center of Atlanta and the city and the state. Just imagine what this city would be like without Cox, without the Atlanta Journal, without the media here, without it being the center of this great enterprise. Just imagine what Atlanta would be like.